Welcome to episode 6 of my State of Xbox Games Studios series. Just a quick update on what's been going on. Unfortunately, I got COVID quite bad and it messed up my throat, so I wasn't able to record any scripts. However, I did use the time to write a lot of them, and so going forward, there shouldn't be a big gap between episodes again. I'm actually writing for episode 13 now, which will be on Tango Gameworks due to the number. Anyways, so far, we've seen some of the best and worst of Xbox first party, with Turn 10 Studios and Undead Labs respectively. But with us being a few episodes in now, I think it's time we finally start looking at a developer included in one of the big publisher acquisitions that shocked the industry. This time, we're looking at Bethesda's MachineGames. Founded in 2009, the Swedish developer was created by former employees of Starbreeze Studios, who came to prominence with 2004's Xbox exclusive The Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay, a surprisingly critically acclaimed hit that was even more impressive when compared to other movie tie-ins at the time, which were all pretty much viewed as terrible cash grabs. After unsuccessfully pitching game ideas to several publishers for 18 months, the team was running out of funds and even considered selling their homes to finance the studio further or face closure. Around this time, developer ID Software and the rights to its Wolfenstein series were acquired by Bethesda's parent company, ZeniMax Media. Bethesda then offered MachineGames to work on one of its IP. When Jens Matthias, MachineGames' creative director, learned that no one was developing a Wolfenstein game at the time, he requested that they develop one. id Software was already impressed with the team's work while at Starbreeze, and only requested that MachineGames use their id Tech 5 engine. By November 2010, all necessary paperwork was completed, and the studio joined Bethesda and developed what would later become Wolfenstein the New Order. By this time, around 70% of the company's employees originated from Starbreeze. Since Wolfenstein the New Order in 2014, MachineGames has gone on to develop another 4 games in the franchise, dabbled a bit in the Quake franchise, and is now currently working on a title based on the Indiana Jones franchise, in conjunction with Lucasfilm. This was announced in January 2021, a few months after Xbox announced their intention to acquire Bethesda, which was completed in March 2021. Like many of Bethesda's developers, I have played most games that MachineGames have released, so let's briefly go through their output with the Wolfenstein franchise. Despite 2014 generally considered to be a poor year for video games, and the worst of the PS4/Xbox One era, Wolfenstein the New Order was one of the few games that really stood out. Despite a heavy emphasis on story to complement the excellent gunplay, I never felt lost despite this being my first Wolfenstein game. In fact, I enjoyed the New Order so much that I got the Platinum Trophy 4 times, as this was a cross-gen title for PS3 and PS4, and due to the World War II imagery, separate German versions for these consoles had to be created that stripped out real-world figures to comply with German law. I also played 2015's smaller title, Wolfenstein the Old Blood, but truthfully, I don't remember much except feeling slightly let down by the story. That's why I was even more happy to see 2017's proper sequel, Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus, was a return to form with some of the craziest set pieces you'll ever see in a video game. Seriously, 2017 is widely considered to be one of the best years in gaming and the best of the PS4/Xbox One era. Yet the story was so ridiculous that Giant Bomb had to have a separate category specifically for these sequences during their Game of the Year awards. Play this game. Anyways, 2019 saw the last 2 Wolfenstein games so far, Youngblood, which was a smaller scope spin-off starring BJ Blazkowicz's daughters, and the VR exclusive Cyber Pilot. When it comes to Youngblood, though obviously not as good as the main games, I still did enjoy it, certainly more than the Metacritic would say. I didn't play Cyber Pilot, as by 2019 I was done dealing with PSVR and its setup. Apparently it wasn't a great game anyways, so no loss there. Aside from dabbling with new levels in the Quake franchise, that's been pretty much it for MachineGames. So, let's now look to the future and see how the developer stacks up now under Xbox Games Studios. As stated earlier, we do know that their next game is Indiana Jones, which is one of the many games that got announced with a CGI trailer that tells us absolutely nothing. It's therefore quite hard to say how confident we should be, as we just don't know enough to form a proper opinion. MachineGames have proven their skills with third-person movie tie-ins before, with the Chronicles of Riddick, so I imagine the game will at least be good. And if they do decide to go first-person, they've already proven their pedigree with numerous Wolfenstein titles. What is concerning though is that we haven't gotten an update, let alone any gameplay, over 18 months after announcement. We need to see more, and we should have by now. They're almost certainly working on Wolfenstein 3 as well, which has been confirmed in interviews they've done, where they've essentially said it would be the final chapter in a trilogy. They haven't made a bad mainline Wolfenstein yet, and with Microsoft money now funding the game, I'm very confident this will serve as a great end chapter to this special series. This is one of the few Bethesda games, however, that I believe should remain on PlayStation despite the acquisition. Phil Spencer said anything with a legacy would remain multi-platform, and with 5 games already on PlayStation, one more than even what's on Xbox due to 2019's PSVR title, I'd say that counts, and that would be messed up to take away the final game in the trilogy from people who played this series on PlayStation. And no, this is not me being a PlayStation fanboy, being salty about games being taken away. I'm more than happy for Starfield, Redfall, Indiana Jones, Elder Scrolls 6, etc. to all be Xbox exclusive, as they're all new stories and all new franchises that have no legacy on PlayStation. We're in unprecedented times though, with big acquisitions taking place all over the industry, and with that should come a rewriting of the rules, which means having first-party games remaining multi-platform when it makes sense. Wolfenstein 3 should be on PlayStation, just as Destiny 2 must remain on Xbox. Regardless of exclusivity, however, I am very confident in whatever Wolfenstein 3 becomes. As for Indiana Jones, we just don't know enough, which is why I hate how Microsoft have cadenced out many of their game announcements, because it's now 18 months later and we still know nothing about the game. Hopefully we find something out soon, and that the news isn't dire like what's going on with Perfect Dark. Speaking of which, I think it's time we finally delve into that historic franchise, and what's going on with the initiative in the next episode.
This is just the beginning.